I've just arrived in San Francisco from Reno, and today I'm flying United's new Polaris Studio to London. I paid another $499 on top of the regular Polaris fare. But will the extra space and special treatment actually make the journey better? Come along with me and let's find out on this episode of Cleared for Comfort. Polaris Studio passengers are invited to pre-board alongside United's Global Services members. That's one of the special perks included with my upgrade. This aircraft features United's new elevated interior, and the changes extend well beyond the Polaris Studio suites, which are found in rows 1 and 9. Now, if you've flown Polaris before, the biggest upgrades you'll notice are the privacy door, the gorgeous 19-inch 4K screen, and the modernized cabin. Premium Plus and Economy also received makeovers. They have larger screens, and on the elevated aircraft, all classes have Bluetooth. Today, though, my focus is on the additional $499 I paid for Polaris Studio and whether the complete experience was worth that upgrade. First impressions of this seat, wow, it is enormous. I sat in row 2, it's a lot smaller, still looks really nice, but this one's going to be great. I'm going to see if I can sleep tonight on this aircraft. Before I get to the things I loved, I want to get a few negatives out of the way. I understand how lucky I am to be flying business class, especially in this seat. I never forget how grateful I am. But in the interest of telling you what to expect, it's helpful to know a few things. Now first, there are 2 USB-C outlets and 1 international style plug. There are no USB-A outlets, so you need to be prepared for that. The outlets are tucked underneath a shelf and they're a little hard to see. There's a light there, but it's insufficient. I actually needed to use my iPhone light just to plug in. Second, there's wireless charging. Supposedly. I tried every which way to get my iPhone 17 Pro to charge, but it never did. Now I do have a case, but it's an approved one, and it charges wirelessly at home with no problem. Third, there's a handheld remote for the entertainment system. Kudos to you if you can figure out how to use it. The up, down, left, and right controls are on the back of the unit, and they don't seem to move in the directions you expect, even if you flip it over. The OK button is on the opposite side, kind of the front side, and there's some kind of a touchpad there, but I'll be darned if I can figure out how it works. So instead of using the handheld, I just slid up in the seat and controlled the monitor as a touchscreen. Now all 3 of those issues apply to every Polaris seat, not just the Studio. Okay, enough of that negative stuff. So let's talk more about what I got for my extra $499. Well, you saw my first impression, and that extra 25% of space is noticeable. If you have a traveling companion, they can sit there and share a meal, play cards, or just chat. But for me, sleeping is where I really notice the difference. I sleep on my stomach, and while I'll take any lie-flat seat I can get, I've never been able to completely flip over. One leg comes up and always hits the side. But with the extra space in Polaris Studio, my leg fit perfectly. For me, this was the single biggest difference. Now, for all my fellow stomach sleepers, please note, half the Studio seats favor your left leg, and the other half favor your right leg, so choose accordingly. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments if you'd experienced other business class seats that accommodate us stomach sleepers. Now, long before trying to sleep, however, let's go back to that entertainment system. I mentioned the new 19-inch screens in Polaris, but the Studio suites get a very large 27-inch screen, and it's incredibly crisp. The entertainment options are the same across United, and I've always found something good to watch. Next came the champagne. Upon boarding, I received Prosecco, but shortly after takeoff, I received one of these special Studio perks, an amuse-bouche of caviar with a glass of highly rated Laurent Perrier Cuvier. Now, would I try the caviar? Let's roll the tape and find out. I did it! Wow! You know, it's kind of like when you want to jump into a cool lake, and if you hesitate, you get psyched out. Dive right in, and within a moment, you're glad you did. That little caviar was actually quite tasty. Another Studio perk was having a few Studio-only options for pre-order meals. I picked steak and shrimp, and while the steak was a bit more well done than I prefer it, still had great flavor and the sauce complemented the shrimp. And after dinner, well, who can resist a sundae? Hot fudge, whipped cream, and a Baileys to wash it down? You can do that in a regular Polaris seat, but it's still much appreciated. After dinner, it was time for another perk of the Studio experience, special pajamas. United normally provides pajamas only on flights over 14 hours and a handful of other routes. But Polaris Studio has special set of pajamas. They provide them on all the routes. They're very, very comfortable. I enjoyed them. Other Studio perks include a large amenity kit with all the usual items. The zippered box itself is worth keeping. And after dinner, I was presented with a special studio snack box, also a nice touch, and I took that one home. Overnight, all Polaris passengers have access to a snack area, which was well stocked. And in the morning, I received the same standard breakfast options as all the other Polaris passengers. So what's the verdict? Was Polaris Studio worth the extra $4.99? Well, it depends on what you find valuable. For me, I really loved being treated like a global services passenger for a day. That early boarding even extended to my connecting flight from Reno. And I can't say enough about how much the extra space meant to me while sleeping. I was happy to have the champagne and try caviar for only the second time in my life, but those two things didn't move my personal needle very much. Perhaps they'll move yours. And the amenity kit and snack box are nice touches too, but individually they're not substantial for me. Now, before my final verdict, I should add that United says the price for Polaris Studio is dynamic, ranges from $4.99 to $6.99. Mine was therefore at the low end. And if you're traveling as a couple and both want the Studio, you might want seats 9D and 9F. Those are the honeymoon seats that together look a bit like a double bed. But Mark, is it cleared for comfort? I say yes. For me, being treated like a global services passenger and most importantly, having that extra space to actually sleep the way I sleep, made the $4.99 upgrade worth it. United Polaris Studio is cleared for comfort.